All right, so let's finally create our first database. We're just going to create a simple database called first database. All right, you can call it whatever you want to. But to create a new database, I'm going to right-click in the Object Explorer under Databases and select New Database. And here we'll have the New Database dialog will pop up, and we'll give it the name that we want to use, first database. Now don't click OK just yet because I want to talk about this a little bit. At this point, the owner will be the default user, which will be me. However, we can change ownership to a specific user. We're not going to do that in this course. We'll talk about permissions and such in a security-specific course on DevU. There are some other things, however, that you should be aware of. Notice that it's going to create two database files. The logical name, first database, and then a first database log file. And it will also be installing them or creating them in a file group called primary. And so we'll want to talk about that a little bit later as well. If we go under options, you can see that there are a number of things that we can modify, options we can modify about the database itself. We're not going to change any of these just yet. However, these are important if we need to customize the functionality. Again, just want to call your attention to them, not really make anything, do anything about them just yet. Now, the other thing that I want to point out is that we have the notion of a file group, and a file group is just a location where files are stored on for the database. So you can actually create a group of files stored on various drives on a single computer or multiple drives across multiple computers. Now we're just going to, for our purposes, create a single file. I do want to point out there's more data over to the right-hand side. This is the actual path where the files will be saved, and so it's going to put them in a very deep folder, and we may not want that. So it'll put them at /program files, Microsoft SQL Server, MS SQL 13.SQL Express /MS SQL /data. I don't like that, so we're going to cancel out of this, and I want to open up Windows Explorer and go to my C drive and actually create. Let's see, where am I here? Okay, I'm on my C drive. I'm actually going to create a new folder and just call this first database, so we can actually easily get to this and see what files are created. Now I'm going to go through the process again of creating a new database, and we're going to call this first database. And over here to the right hand side, I'm going to change the path information and select that new folder I created, first database, and click OK. And I'll do the same for the log file and click OK. And those are the only changes that I think I'm going to make here. Let's make sure. Yeah, I'll leave the file name blank because it'll just use the database. The logical name here with a file extension, as we'll see in just a moment. I'll click OK. And then we're going to expand the nodes, and we should see a little database icon with first database pop up here in the tree-like structure. If you don't see that, then hit the refresh button and it should appear. But before we do that, I want to go back here and take a look at what files were actually created. You'll notice that there are two files were created, an MDF file and an _log.ldf file. So the MDF file is the actual database file. Notice that it's already pre-sized out to what is that, 8 megs in size, and it can expand beyond that if we add more data. The log file is the same. Also, just keep in mind that this is a specific file format to SQL Server and other Microsoft database products, and it's created for optimal data storage and retrieval. And we probably never want to open this up. It's going to be in a format that we're not going to be able to easily access outside of SQL Server. SQL Server is going to hold on to this file and protect it, so we don't want to make any changes to it. But what about this log file? Well, it'll basically record every transaction against the database that will actually modify one of the database objects. So, for example, if we were to make some sort of mistake and we need to roll back, we might roll back from a specific point in the log, and then it will undo all of the transactions that happened after a specific point, or we can re-execute those changes that were made within the log file. That's a little bit advanced and more of an administrative task, so we're not going to talk about it in this course, but we will talk about it in an administrative course in an upcoming course on DevView. All right, so I just wanted you to see where the data will actually be stored, and now we have our database. I want to work inside of my query window. If I want to work inside of this database, I want to make sure to change the available databases now to first database. Some of these other databases are used by SQL Server to keep track of tables and the databases and other objects for SQL Server. And we don't want to make any changes to these manually, at least not as we're getting started. There are procedures that we can call, built-in procedures that will allow us to access some of the data inside of these very special databases. But as we get started, let's only focus on working with our first database. Okay? So let's wrap this up, and then we'll create our first table in the next video. We'll see you there. Thanks.